Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. New Zealand First will vote in favour of new Part 3 of the bill as tabled by the Labour Party, and will do so with considerable enthusiasm because it deals with development and development of affordable houses. And the Minister doesn't seem to understand this, and Jerry Brownlee especially doesn't understand it. That's what people want. And that's not what they're getting under this government. This Part 3 is completely consistent with New Zealand First policy and contrasts with National's vacuous claim that it has a comprehensive housing strategy, when in fact it has none. Just a litany of failed policies, including the special housing areas, which have delivered only 1,300 houses over the last 3 years. And all of that shows that this national government is just a bunch of deadheads, do-nothings and dripping dipsticks when it comes to housing. Oh. And Mr Speaker, Mr Chairman, this SOP is instead exactly what this country needs. Exactly what this country needs. And what this country doesn't need is a minister like the failed Jerry Brownlee in every portfolio that he's got. What New Zealand First wants, Mr Chairman, is a housing commission. And we want a housing commission reporting to this House so that it can carry out the long-term strategic planning that has never really happened for housing in this country. We want to see that happen, well-resourced, with people who know what they're doing out of the political arena and can do it objectively and effectively. We also want that body to establish a company which we call Kiwi Housing, and we would want that to buy, develop land, sell it on easy terms, or sell already built houses to the public. And that is exactly what we want the government to do. And we want that to happen because we know that the private development market in this country cannot cope with the current situation, hasn't been able to cope for the last several years. Yet this government says, let's hand more and more of the responsibility for that over to them. And that is all they're doing, nothing more. That is absolutely not enough. And, Mr Chairman, what New Zealand First targets as housing, especially for Auckland, but for the whole of New Zealand, is 20,000 houses per year. And I'm not just doing one-upmanship over the Labour Party. That is based on my reading of what is required under the Auckland Unitary Plan. And over 7 years, that would amount to 140,000 houses. And the Auckland Unitary Plan indicates that that is the scale of housing that is actually required. 20,000 houses a year by the government, Mr Speaker, with government direct investment is actually completely achievable. And that minister doesn't think so. And that's because he's not capable of it, and neither is his whole government. But anyone with any ability and any determination and the right approach to housing would be capable of it. And Mr Speaker, when I look at the last part of this Part 3, I can see that it does some very important things in terms of what it's about, and that is to ensure that houses are affordable. And I'm not going to get into the argument about how you define affordability, because all we need to do is to ensure that the new entities which I have spoken of would ensure that houses actually get built effectively by the government and by direct investment in homes, and in homes which are on modest-sized sections, modest-sized homes, and for therefore modest prices. And, Mr Speaker, not only that, there need to be mechanisms for people to be able to buy those homes directly on easy terms, and that's also in New Zealand First's policy and should be the sort of thing that we would see happen under the provisions for new Section 50U, Corporation to Manage Affordable Housing Development, under this part of this bill. So, Mr Speaker, other parties do have comprehensive and actually effective housing plans and strategies, which this government doesn't have. And that minister, the Minister of Homelessness in this country, should step down and the whole government should get out of government in this country, let others do what we can do.
Mr. Chairman.